glad you're with us on Conquering Retirement. Brad Johansson along with Northern Alliance Financial, Lance Gilman, the president and CEO, and Jeremy Barnard. Gentlemen,
here we go again.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say it every time that it's so enjoyable to be back with you and help people through Maine, because the educational process is desperately needed for those who are trying to figure this whole how do I retire well kind of thing. So we appreciate you. So I want to spend some time with the ladies today of saying, hey, we hear you, we understand you, and we're trying to help throughout this. Why? Give me the beginning of what you guys are doing in leading that charge of saying, we understand you ladies, because this is a big deal and there needs to be an understanding on both sides of the aisle of this one.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality. The statistics are not pretty for men. I mean, they're really not.
And we're stupider than the gentler sex. That's what happens.
They're not. Yeah. And so the reality is what we're finding is that there is a need out there that is not being talked about, Brad.
Yeah.
It is not being addressed. And that is if, let's say, the men are dying and the survivor is remaining at 60 years of age, that is very young, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
60 years of age. And so we've got to get a plan together. A lot of times where it does seem to be true that maybe people, especially if they're married, the males tend to be the ones that are coming into the office and sitting down and getting the financials and blah, blah, blah. And the females are doing other things like they're caregiving, they're raising the kids and all that kind of stuff. But the reality of the situation is the females a lot of time are going to be left holding the baton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while it's not always true, I've seen it just the reverse, where the female is actually the one that's coming into the office and doing the numbers. And so that's a good thing. But we actually want both. We want the male and the female in a couple to be coming to the meetings so that they're both educated, because guess what, Brad? There are no guarantees in this life. And either one of them could be gone. And so we want to have that discussion, whether it's the male or the female, and make sure that they're both coming into the office for those briefings and for those updates on what's going on with the portfolio, what's going on with the financial plan for the couple. Regardless of which one goes first, there's a plan in place that they know where to go to. They know where to get help, so they're not all by themselves.
Okay, people are saying, Lance, what are you just holding up? What do you mean you have a plan? Give me the binder that you, and you guys have kind of switched to this for a lot of your clients. What's important about what you're holding there?
So this actually is something that we've just implemented within the past few months at Northern Alliance. We're very proud of this, Brad, because I have never seen another financial firm put together this nice of a beautiful professional bound booklet with a plan with all of the financial planning and estate information all together. This binder talks about not only the advisor, the portfolio, the budget, the income, tax considerations, Social Security, long-term care, risk management, Medicare, and long-term care, legal and estate planning. It is all together in one bound portfolio book. And it says personal financial plan. So it is not just a generic plan that we do for just everybody. It is tailored to every individual. Every individual and every individual couple that comes in and actually becomes a client. This particular bound plan is made particularly tailored for them.
All right. So in doing that, I guess this leans towards one of the questions that we always have. Okay, the gentleman usually walks in, or in other cases, the woman usually walks in. How often do we see both of them walk into the plan and say, I want to know about this? And how often do you hear, he does this, or she does this, I don't really have any interest? And what's the point of we want everybody in the office to make sure they understand what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm grateful to say that my experience has been that more often than not, both partners are coming in at the same time. And I love that because finances there's nothing gendered about finances. They aren't masculine, they're not feminine.
Right.
They're numbers, and they play together regardless of whatever gender the person has got going on. What's different, what I try to, when I'm working with anybody, but in particular women, I actually don't think I understand what's different about women in finances. So that forces me to listen all the more. What's important to women is very different sometimes than what's important to men, but it's not less important.
Right.
It's just different. So I'm listening, focusing, paying attention in a different way, trying not to put my own perspectives into their situation so much as just listening. I'm blessed with two adult daughters. I love them to death. I don't understand them, and I love listening and learning and growing as a person because I'm trying to understand their perspective. But that is a lifelong journey. Finances, same kind of approach. We listen and we learn.
If there isn't gender involved in how we put together a financial plan, is catering the wrong term? How do we cater to the differences when you say I don't understand all the times of what a woman sees? And maybe this goes to the behavioral finance that we sometimes talk about, that we're dealing with feelings a lot, especially around money. And it's been said many times before, we're driven by two, fear and greed on the finances, and they tend to work in opposite directions, but we're driven mostly by fear that we don't have enough, that we're going to lose it all, that something's going to happen, that I make the wrong decision. How is the behavioral finance different when we're dealing with women and money?
I'm going to say the biggest difference is they're looking for somebody to trust. In a different way, it seems to me, if I may be so bold to say, than men are looking for somebody to trust. And I think it's, obviously it's about the numbers, and that's super important, but knowing that we're going to be there, that the phone is going to get answered, that we're going to do the little things well when there's a form that needs to get filled out, that, everything's going to get done for you, and all we're going to need is a signature on the bottom page. And I think that kind of level of trust, knowing that we pay attention to the little details, goes a long way in a different way, perhaps, than for women than it does to men. Again, that's based on my experience, and the trust is a big deal.
Yeah, and especially when you're talking about, in our case, where we're actual fiduciary advisors. So we have a legal and ethical and moral responsibility to do what is in the best interest of the client. A lot of times people don't know the difference between advisors, but that's a huge one.
For sure.
What is this that you've put together, Women and Money, beginning your journey towards financial wellness, and this is something that your clients can have within this, and that this is just the beginning of the conversation, but the idea of there is a difference, there is an understanding, there are new challenges within this that we probably need to pay attention to.
Yeah, there are resources that are out there that we're trying our best to get out to the masses. Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of women who have kind of accepted a second-tier role in finances, and sometimes need a little bit of help knowing what questions to ask, or a little bit of support in a new way. And so that's something that we focus on in providing these kinds of materials, any resources that are done. They kind of abound. It's only if we take advantage of them or not. So it's one of our efforts to educate not only women, but certainly for ourselves too. Again, I don't want to be so bold as to think that I know what, this isn't the Mel Gibson movie, knowing what women want kind of thing. Like it's an ongoing relationship like anything else. We're here to listen and focus and grow in our understanding of each other.
Well, the idea is that we don't understand everything, but the idea, again, is to try to understand and maybe listen a little bit more, and to find somebody that you can trust who's been doing it for a long time. Maybe this is the time to make a call, to try and find somebody that you can trust with your retirement plan. Call the number on your screen, scan the QR code. What it does is offer a complimentary financial plan. Do it now. And let's talk some more about this difference when we return.
Our team at Northern Alliance is very diverse in terms of the services that we offer.
We do take a team-based approach.
We carry multiple licenses so that clients can do everything within the Northern Alliance financial team.
If it has anything to do with retirement, that's what we specialize in.
Budget planning, tax considerations, social security strategies, risk management, long-term care, Medicare, health planning, as well as legal and estate planning.
We really are a one-stop shop.
There's Lance, Gilman, Peter Hansen, Jeremy Barnard, myself. We do have a staff that is great.
In Maine, we have multiple locations to cover the vast array of the state.
You know, you can come in and have a conversation in person. And a lot of people are looking for these days. Things after COVID have changed to more Zoom, phone call sort of things. And we'll do those things, but we appreciate and would rather have you come in person and have a conversation face to face like this.
We're pretty approachable, and we're going to listen to you. We're going to try to determine what your needs, your aspirations, those goals are, and then we're going to do everything that we possibly can to help you meet those goals.
It's lighthearted, it's carefree. We laugh like crazy. An atmosphere that I don't think is common in a lot of other practices.
We were talking about how well the team is bonding together, how similarly we all think in that what we do, we want to actually make a difference.
Average, everyday people helping average, everyday people.
You know, we truly do put the client first.
Our mantra has been, when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Grateful for your time on Conquering Retirement. Brad Johansson with the guys at Northern Alliance Financial, Lance and Jeremy. And Lance has put together a book. This has just been updated. We're talking about women and money and the difference within that. You've actually dedicated a chapter within the book. Chapter 6 deals with this. Why so important, and put that within the book?
Yeah, absolutely, because it is that germane.
Yeah.
It's just that important. And I'm realizing this as a financial advisor. I'm seeing the statistics. I have a spouse. No guarantees in life. I mean, I have a mother, you know. And so it's important that we recognize what the statistics say and that we're developing plans to help the situation. And irrespective, I've seen cases in the office where people come in and watching the show, this gentleman called in and his spouse had passed. It reversed in this particular case.
Yeah.
Where it was the female, she was an accountant. She handled everything. And so
He walked in feeling clueless?
He didn't have an idea what was going on. It had just the reverse effect, Brad.
Yeah.
But I said, well, how much do you think you have? He said, I don't really know. I don't have a clue. I ran a business. She did the numbers. She was the accountant.
Yeah.
She did taxes. They did everything. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Put a box together, write Lance on it, and start. When you get mail, throw it in the box. When that box gets full, call me. So anyway, a couple weeks went by, 3 weeks went by, 6 weeks went by. He called. He said, that box is getting pretty full. You might want to come over. I said, how much do you think you actually have saved? He said, you know, I really don't know. But if you were to just guess a number, how much do you think you've saved? He said, maybe 300,000. I don't know, 350,000. I said, you know what we have just done here today? He said, I don't know what, I haven't done anything. I've just been feeding you iced tea. So we, by calculating what your wife has set aside for you, have just made you a millionaire. He had no idea, Brad, how well she had put things together. So, but the point is, we have to have all that stuff documented in the plan.
Yeah.
Because whether it's the male or the female, it's in the plan. And that gives them peace of mind. Is there any price you can pay for that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because they know when they open this binder who the advisor is and who they need to contact. And if something goes wrong in that couple, they know where the office is. They've met with the advisor and they know there's a plan.
Let's talk about some specifics, because Social Security becomes one of those specifics that it tends to be very confusing for a lot of people, and there are rules that go along with that, but there are spousal rules that go along with this. Fill us in on what spouses are entitled to when you're dealing with dual Social Security, both when living and when one passes.
Yeah, it's definitely important to know the way Social Security works in that situation. If a spouse does pass away, one of the Social Security benefits is going to go away, and it's going to go away that very month. Thankfully, it's the lower of the two benefits. The larger benefit stays with the surviving spouse, which is really good. But in a lot of situations, that's a very significant decrease in your income on a monthly basis if you lose the smaller of the two benefits. It's at minimum 50% loss of benefits, or loss of income. So that's a critical thing to pay attention to. We address those topics with all of our clients. We have to discuss the topics of, a spouse passing away. And the perspectives on how to handle that situation are very different. If it's the man having their perspective versus a woman having their perspective, or vice versa. It's an important topic that one of the reasons I love this workbook that we've put together for people is it forces us to have all of those conversations and listen to both partners and what they value and what's important to them, and then attend to those issues in a meaningful way to each person.
You're talking even about death benefits.
Yeah.
Even within life, there is a lack of understanding that maybe for a female who hasn't worked quite as much as the male in a couple and is still taking a smaller benefit and not realizing that they are entitled to half of the larger benefit while living. This becomes a complication thing of just answering questions. When we talk about educating people, this is one of those that are nuances that I never knew.
Yeah.
Right. And so the other thing too is if the spouse passes, now all of a sudden they're eligible for a survivor benefit. Well, the survivor benefit, number one, is the maximum of whatever the two benefits were. So if the first spouse passed and that benefit was higher than spouse two, the survivor, then spouse two, the survivor, is eligible to get all of that benefit from the spouse that passed, but they lose theirs. So they get the higher of the two, but one of them's gone. So we've got to think about that. We're losing some portion of our guaranteed income sources. How are we going to make up for that?
Yeah.
That means we have to have a contingency plan within the plan, right, to deal with this.
Well, we stress test these plans all the time,
Right.
and I love doing that. And I joke about it. I'm like, all right, electronically, someone's passing away. And electronically, we see what happens if somebody passed away the weekend before. It's always the language I use. If you, spouse one, passed away last weekend, what would happen to your plan? And then I electronically resurrect people, and then I kill off the other person
Lazarus
electronically.
back to life.
But it's important
Right.
to really stress test this plan. And realistically, there's nothing more stressful to your plan than the loss of a spouse.
Sure.
So we have to have that conversation and really identify it from a mathematical perspective. And there are other ways that are, we want to stress test the plan that are critical, stock market losses, for example. But again, nothing's more critical than the loss of a spouse. And we have to have that conversation. And again, like you said, we have a contingency plan in place if somebody passes away early.
Right. I think the other major consideration when somebody passes is we've got some tax implications. And it's often called the widow's or widower's tax. And why is that even a factor? You think, well, all of a sudden I'm getting half of my income, so why is it a big deal? Well, you're also changing how your filing status is. You went from married filing jointly to now single.
Yeah.
And so your tax status has changed. And so your tax brackets can now change. And people don't need to be dealing with this when they're dealing with the loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
But we have to be thinking about it because we want to protect you from these events.
Yeah, we have to prepare for it so people aren't surprised. It's like you said, we've seen it all too often where, a surviving spouse is grieving and mourning the emotional loss, and then they get hit with a financial loss as well. Better to be prepared. As difficult as those conversations are, it's way better to be prepared, know it's coming, and have that plan in place. All right, now I'm going to implement Plan B because I have to.
And the idea is, have you stress test your retirement plan? Have you gone through the what ifs? This is what's being done in the office all the time on individual basis. Your situation is going to be different than anybody else's, and maybe this is something that you need. The packet that is Women and Money to answer some of the questions, or maybe provide some of the questions and then the answers that you didn't even know you had. Maybe you'd just like a little help. Maybe you'd like a second opinion. Maybe it's time to finally put a plan together. Make the phone call to 877-241-7430. Scan the QR code on your screen. Come in for a complimentary financial plan, a written plan that will say, I never knew. I feel stress test. I feel the answer to the what if. I now feel like maybe I have some guidance. It's okay to ask for help. 877-241-7430. Scan the QR code. Come into the office. Put together a plan. More questions, more answers when we return.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Glad you're with us on Conquering Retirement. Brad Johansson with Northern Alliance guys, Lance and Jeremy. And gentlemen, they find you. Sometimes they're walking across the TV and they go, I'm going to sit here for a minute, and then it becomes a habit. You're also on radio. Tell them where you can be found on the radio across Maine.
Yeah, so we're basically on radio from 7 to 8 in the morning, and then from 8 to 9 on GAN, and also the other one is VOM. Yep. So GAN and VOM. So if you're in the southern part of the state, it's WGAN. If you're in the northern part of the state, it's WVOM. 7 to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's the same show. Mm-hmm. And it's
every single morning?
Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. So if you listen to it once and you wanted to, you missed something or you wanted to review something, it's going to be on tomorrow, same time.
And you've had listeners come in and say, I heard something. Yeah. I probably need some help.
Yeah, I actually, and just kind of dovetailing on what we've been talking about here with God forbid, the death of a spouse, it happens. Life happens. And where do you even begin? And I had a listener for the radio where I was talking about this particular topic. It's something we address. It's something we have to address and plan for, Brad. And I said, if you're sitting out there, and this might be you, I don't really know. It could be you out there right now. Maybe you're sitting out there and you've gone through this terrible event in your life where you've lost a loved one and you don't even know where to begin. Well, this was the case with this particular listener, a female. She came in and her husband had passed unexpectedly, and it was low 60s. So this was, again, something that was not expected, and all of a sudden, the spouse is gone. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's your situation. I don't know. But the point is that she called. There was a call to action. There was a number, just like there's a call to action, there's a number on our screen. And she called that number and said, I just lost my spouse and I need some help. She came in, she was in tears. It took us almost 9 months to figure out where everything was. And he had done a really good job with having different assets in different buckets, but it took us almost 9 months to sort them all out. Because they had never come in. They didn't have an advisor, a fiduciary advisor, where they would go in together. Most of it, he just did on his own. And then guess what? He's gone.
And he didn't tell anyone.
And he didn't tell her about anything. So she came in, we sorted it out, and she became a client. We put together the plan for her. And now her children are clients. So, and they have plans, and so they have investments and they have plans. So it's the mantra of taking care of people. When you take care of people, everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah. I've got a lovely story on the people we got ahead of that, so to speak. Just recently working with a couple, and we identified that there is for the next 10 years of retirement, his income is critical. Like if something were to happen to him, there'd be all kinds of loss of income that is insurmountable, really. So what we instituted was a life insurance policy. That is, if something happens in the next 10 years, then he is going to be all set, or she would be all set upon his passing. Just 10 years, it's going to be a couple $100 a month for this life insurance policy that ensures her financial income is going to be stable for the rest of her life. Simple fix to a really big possible problem.
And that's the idea, is to make it simple, to try and figure it out. All the complications. Life is hard for all of us, and answering all the questions is difficult. You could use some help. 877-241-7430. That's why we're here, to try and help you conquer your retirement. Grateful for your time. If you've been watching, listening, maybe it's time to make the call. See you in the office. See you right back here next time.